Hi, I'm Kurt Loder.
And I'm Tabitha Soren.
And this is the Year in Rock. For the next hour, we're going to be taking a look back at a pretty bad year for the music industry. A year in which a lot of performers found themselves facing venues like this one, Giant Stadium in New Jersey, which, as you can see, is pretty empty. On the other hand, in some ways, it was a fairly healthy year for music itself.
We'll also be taking a look back at the year in litigation, a year in which those performers who weren't being popped by police the minute they walked out their front doors were usually being sued by somebody or suing someone themselves.
It was also a very eventful year for black filmmakers and for Madonna and REM, among other acts, and for such issues as AIDS, sexual harassment, and European communism, which finally collapsed.
We'll be taking a look into all of that, but first let's take a look at the year in music, a year in which record sales slumped, new technology revolutionized the pop charts, and some once potent performers suddenly found themselves facing a lot of empty seats.
It's going to be a tour people are going to talk about for a long time.
Who would have thought that a tour called Lollapalooza would be one of the hottest concert events of the year? This all-day alternative music and arts festival was the brainchild of Perry Farrell, the lead singer of Jane's Addiction, and it appears to have been that band's swan song. Not only did Lollapalooza sell out more than half its dates, but it also was an artistic success.
Whenever in history artists have gotten together like that, Dadaists and stuff, heavy things have come out of it, so it can't hurt.
Plenty of bands went out on tour this year, but not a lot of people came to see them. Ticket sales plummeted at least 25% this summer, the season in which concert promoters traditionally do most of their business. A lot of them blame the recession.
Everybody that is alive in the United States of America is feeling the bite of the recession.
Acts are just dying. Concerts are dying all over the country. This is the worst summer for concerts I've ever seen.
Many promoters hope that package tours featuring several acts at a bargain price might bring out the crowd.
In the market today, you know, the way the economy is, it's better to have a strong package with you than to try to take that chance and just go out by yourself. You need those support acts.
Yeah, is that for value of your money or because they can't do it on their own?
Yeah. But the package strategy didn't work. Several such tours simply bombed, partly because several acts on the bill had recently toured on their own, partly because of sheer lack of interest, and partly because tickets cost 20% more than they had just 2 years ago.
There's too many bands and not enough quality.
Two package tours that did survive on the road were the Scorpions' Great White Trickster triple bill and the mighty Clash of the Titans. In 1991, neither multi-platinum albums nor supposedly legendary reputations could support superstar tours.
You're still seeing terrible losses out there. I mean, acts that did 15,000, 16,000 people last time around, 2-3 years ago, are doing 3,000 and 4,000. That's unheard of.
Even Sting sometimes had trouble selling tickets, and Paula Abdul picked a tough year to embark on her first tour. But the 1991 concert season wasn't a total disaster. Guns N' Roses, Metallica, The Grateful Dead, Rod Stewart, ZZ Top, and Van Halen all did big business.
People are just not stupid. I think the fans are just getting... They've seen a lot of rock for 20 years now, you know, and they've been seeing a lot of different shows, and they know who's good and who isn't.
All of us are agreeing that we're having the best time that we've ever had on a tour, on this tour.
Besides tours, there were also festivals.
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
The first and the biggest was Brazil's Rock in Rio 2, which took place in January.
It's genuine excitement and craziness. It's an event, you know.
Although it was a financial dud, Rock in Rio 2 offered a wide range of music, as did most of the other festivals held around the world in 1991.
Festivals are good because they prove that people will slam dance to anything, even ballads. They have enough beer in them.
Don't give up, don't give up, don't give up.
In September, there was a big party at Moscow's Tushino airfield to congratulate Soviet youth for resisting an attempted coup.
It's like Donington plus 10, isn't it?
Ironically, the show was marred by violence, which was a major issue on the U.S. concert scene, too. Festival seating was again questioned after 3 people were killed at an AC/DC show in Salt Lake City. And an investigation of a New Jersey venue turned up 20 cases in which fans had been abused by security guards. And 1991 wasn't just a rough year for the concert business. Record sales were down 11% the first half of the year. Another milestone for the music industry was the advent of a new charting system called SoundScan, which revolutionized the all-important Billboard charts. SoundScan computers tally sales as soon as records are purchased. New acts suffered, but rap and country benefited from the new system, and country star Garth Brooks went to #1 twice with the same record.
Who the hell is Garth Brooks? That is one of these questions nobody really seems to know.
Since the advent of SoundScan, an unprecedented number of acts have entered the charts at #1. The first being Skid Row with its Slave to the Grind album.
I thought it was missing a couple zeros on it. You know, it's like 1.
Metallica, Guns N' Roses, and Van Halen also entered at #1. In the past, chart-topping albums such as these would have boosted business throughout the industry, but not this year. Even Michael Jackson's long-awaited album Dangerous, which also entered at #1, and his Curious video seemed unlikely to turn the record industry's fortunes around.
It was such a bad year in the music industry that even Michael Jackson caught flack for releasing a video that many viewers found to be too violent, and which he found himself having to quickly re-edit. However, Jackson's long-awaited album Dangerous did go to #1, as did another of the year's more memorable albums, Out of Time, an LP by a quartet of college dropouts from the State University here in Athens, Georgia, who also scored one of the year's most distinctive singles and perhaps its most striking video. That band, of course, was R.E.M.
I guarantee that if the Lose My Religion is a hit, it's going to be the only hit this year with a mandolin as the lead instrument.
All of a sudden it's 12 years. 12 years is enough time to think about things and say, you know, I don't mind getting a few awards and selling a few records.
R.E.M. sold a lot more than a few records in 1991. Released last winter, the group's 7th album, Out of Time, went on to sell more than 3 million copies in this country alone. A major breakthrough LP that rang bells both among the band's core of alternative rock fans and at Top 40 radio.
There was a buzz on that record on the streets even before Top 40 radio started playing the record. I was getting phones for it even before we started playing it.
That's me in the corner.
The year's only top 5 mandolin hit was accompanied by the year's most eye-poppingly artful video, in which the gifted Indian-born director Tarseem managed to persuade singer Michael Stipe to take his first ever shot at lip-syncing lyrics.
And then we thought, okay, let's write a story that involves 3 or 4, like influences from painters or from posters, like Russian constructivist posters or whatever, that don't necessarily go together. And the only thing that will put them together is, Michael Stipe.
Losing My Religion was also a major hit at MTV's 1991 Video Music Awards show.
And the winner is
R.E.M.
R.E.M. R.E.M. Losing My Religion. That's me in the spotlight. Losing my religion.
And we'd like to thank the fans from 12 years back all the way to yesterday. Everybody, thank you so much.
Hey, 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 hey.
R.E.M. had a #1 hit with the Out of Time album, and for the first time, the band also had some help. Rapper KRS-One turned up on Radio Song, and Kate Pearson of the B-52s chimed in on Shiny Happy People. But R.E.M. is a great live band, and some fans wondered why the group didn't tour in support of one of its finest LPs.
We still love touring, but, I like chocolate cake, too, but I don't want to eat it every day. This was just the time to not tour for us.
R.E.M. did perform this year, but only on television. The band put in memorable appearances on Saturday Night Live, on MTV's 10th anniversary show, and maybe most memorably on MTV's Unplugged.
I have no idea why it works, or I've never really been real big on analyzing the chemistry of the band, and there's a very definite chemistry there that works between the 4 of us. The music hopefully stands up on its own, and we can be respected as the people who help make it happen.
A very good year for R.E.M. Next up, we'll be taking a look at the sudden proliferation of black filmmakers in 1991, the year in celebrity arrests, and the many adventures of Madonna and Guns N' Roses. First, though, here are some memorable visual moments. Do stay tuned. 1991, even for music people, originated right here in the White House. It was a response to the Iraqi invasion of the oil-rich Persian Gulf state of Kuwait, which took place in August of 1990. The United States and its allies quickly deployed troops and armaments to the Gulf, and by January of this year, with Iraqi dictator Saddam Hussein still refusing to budge, it was said that war was inevitable, and the countdown began.
Let's face it, we're greedy. We want their oil.
Some may ask, why act now?
There was no reasoning with a man like Hussein.
Kuwait was an oil well that they turned into a country.
Why not wait?
How are we supposed to react to what Saddam Hussein has done?
We cannot let it happen.
The world could wait no longer.
U.S. forces based in Saudi Arabia have launched an attack on the nation of Iraq. We cannot even guess at the consequences of this action, but they are likely to be grave. 1991 got underway with the largest military offensive this country has mounted since Vietnam. It was a short and perhaps therefore popular war, requiring just 42 days for Allied forces to bomb the invaders out of Kuwait and back into their native Iraq. This victory turned not on troops, but on cutting-edge technology. And the real hero of the Gulf War might be said to have been not a soldier, but a missile, the uncannily precise Patriot. There were surreal touches, too, such as the cartoon kid who became a top star on military radio,
Everybody back and forth, side to side.
and the 60s anti-war anthem that was dusted off by the minority of protesters and quickly appropriated by the pro-war majority. And as always, war offered opportunities for eagle-eyed entrepreneurs to turn a quick profit peddling such commodities as Desert Storm board games and Saddam Hussein toilet paper. Naturally, the favored color scheme for this season of conflict was red, white, and blue. The Gulf War was heavily censored, raising anew the ancient conflict between the citizens' right to know what their government is doing in their name and the government's disinclination to tell them.
We don't want to talk too much about it.
The Pentagon dribbled what information it saw fit to release into tightly managed press pools with the usual lashings of can-do enthusiasm.
Is that why there's little opposition? We're going to go around, over, through, on top, underneath, and any other way.
If you thought that you could understand this war in the Middle East just by watching television alone, not reading anything, you're a fool.
The war also highlighted, once again, America's dependence on foreign oil. And in the end, it brought with it a further depletion of oil reserves and environmental devastation on an awesome scale.
We have 5% of the world's population. We consume 25% of the fossil fuels. If they're not spilling on our shores, if they're not being fought over in some distant part of the world, we're burning them and putting them into the atmosphere and poisoning ourselves.
When the smoke began to clear a bit, Saddam Hussein was still in power and even claiming victory. The United States threw itself a victory party anyway, but the sentiments on display, even among soldiers, were not entirely unmixed.
Glad to be home, and I'm not going to another war.
With the ground war in the Gulf concluded in 4 days flat, life returned more or less to normal. In the pop business, countless young acts continued to struggle for a break, and those that had already achieved that plateau continued to push for a major breakthrough that would lift them up to such big-time venues as Madison Square Garden here in New York City, and maybe boost them all the way up to the top of the charts. Here's how the year went for these people.
Well, I think that the cream always rises. When you're good, you're good.
Listen, man, I want to have a hit like Nelson. I don't care what I have to do. Look, I'm willing to play ball now.
Hey, we'll take a top 10 single when it wants to come our way.
It's what I've always dreamed about doing, so I'm very fortunate to be here.
Trying to build a career, trying to make a living.
Things are just kind of kicking into gear. Just been having a blast, man. You know, this is it.
Woo! I'm a comet. Catch my tail.
Our success has given us a little breathing air. We do things now definitely at the Black Crowes pace. You know, we call our own shots. It's, you know, you don't have someone going, no, let me tell you kid something. Well, let me tell you, this kid, you know, let me tell you something for once.
We're going to try to find at least maybe 1 or 1.5 people that know who we are.
But you've heard the song before? No? We had a first record out in '89, and we were getting a little discouraged whether or not, you know, we were going to break into the mainstream. But, you know, we just kept at it.
It's like those two blonde guys.
Prefab Sprout. Those two blonde guys.
Nelson? Close. Oh, two
I mean, I played in bars for years and years, and I'll probably play in bars for years to come. And I like music so much, I'll do it anyway. But if somebody pays you money, there's no complaint about that. It's not that it's money I'm interested in. It just really, the money's not, it's not a big part of it, folks.
I've spent a little on clothes, I won't lie. It's sort of like a dream when I'm doing it. I always expect I'm going to wake up and be back on my mattress, sleeping on the floor.
Yeah, when they told us it was #1, it was like, had an extra beer, you know. The cool thing for me was when we hung out there for 4 weeks. You know, it said something that, hey, we're not just like flash in the pan.
Here at this point, 8 years, you know, into our career, you know, we're still going up. And it's not coming the other way around where we peaked on the first project and have been free-falling, clamoring to hang on to a shred of what we accomplished before. It's really nice.
Next to you in silent lucidity.
Music is in waves, life is in waves. At some parts of your life, you're on a high. At some parts of your life, you're on a low. Don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years. Once you're a star, there's nowhere to go. I just keep striving to be a star. So don't call it a comeback. I'm maintaining and elevating.
Breakthrough acts of 1991. We'll be back with a look at this year's big pop, rock, rap, jazz, thrash, metal fusion, and the hottest new acts of the year, and of course, Madonna. First, though, here are some of the year's most notable quotes. Do stay tuned.
Do I ever sound like this?
In order to fight the power, you must master the power.
I think that playing music together is the closest that 4 guys can get without actually having sex together.
The best part about sex is the squirrel.
Truth or dare, truth or dare. You wanna up?
What's the difference between like and love?
I don't know.
A spit or a swallow?
What's it like doing a kissing scene?
It's like being intimate in the zoo.
Please get your thinking caps on and put that cap on down there, and then everything will be all right.
Videos are like girlfriends to me. I am continually astonished at the choices other people make.
Do I look like the devil, though? We're not interested in, you know, getting a couple of, you know, young suburban girls out there who like Search's hair and they want to see me in Teen Beat.
Look at that. Did you hurt your ear?
Welcome back to the Year in Rock. It was a year in which radio remained as unadventurous as ever, but in which dance music, as showcased at clubs here in New York City and elsewhere across the country, became the arena for an extraordinary musical fusion of rock and rap and metal and even jazz. Cause for hope, perhaps. Here's the story.
People have been waiting for something like this for a long time.
It's hardcore,
pop,
reggae, jazz music.
It's hard to explain.
Rap, disco,
country,
rock.
Just expect the unexpected.
heavy metal, Gregorian chants,
Hip-hop.
Uniting everybody together.
Right now.
Yeah.
At the playground.
Rico. Bombastic. Suave.
You're so unbelievable. Rainbow, the fire.
Rock and roll was always a mixture. In the beginning, it was a combination of country and rhythm and blues. By 1991, it had grown to include jazz and metal and funk and even new age. And it was selling, too. Consider the hybrid sounds of such acts as Marky Mark and the producer-driven C&C Music Factory.
Everybody over here, everybody over there.
Rap doesn't have to embrace other forms of music. Other forms of music has to now embrace rap. It's almost like the person that you lock out becomes the ruler.
Well, in its early years, rap, like R&B before it, was locked out of the radio pop scene. Today, however, rap is a key pop music ingredient.
Gotta know how
gotta deal with a woman that won't let go. The price you pay for being a gigolo.
And if a rap-Latin fusion can work, why not add some pop jazz? Dream Warriors from Toronto took an old Quincy Jones game show theme and transformed it into hip-hop pop.
My definition.
We're linking the generation gap, you know. Jazz was considered older people's music, and hip-hop was considered, or rap was considered to be younger people's voice of opinion. So when it got together, it kind of was a nice blend.
An already established dance pop act, Belle Biv DeVoe, had a fusion philosophy of their own. And they applied it to a pair of protege groups, Boys to Men and Another Bad Creation.
I'm not saying this to put nobody down. This is what I say at the playground.
A dance beat soul revival was apparently what the British group London Beat had in mind with its hit single, I've Been Thinking About You.
It's the combination of what we've got with the guitar, the voices, and the sort of a 60s type sound.
There can be one thing, there can be one element, one aspect of a song which is what actually hooks you into it.
One of the oldest hooks in rock, a three-chord riff dating back to the Kingsmen's Louie Louie, was appealingly resuscitated by the English scene band EMF.
You're unbelievable.
We've got a sort of white rock legacy, really. I mean, like Zeppelin and I mean, I really like Cream and the Doors and stuff like that. I mean, and there is a bit of that in there, the sort of guitar thing.
EMF's own roots were of more recent vintage, however. They started out as acolytes of another English band, Jesus Jones. Punk rock fusion is hardly new, of course. Sly Stone and Jimi Hendrix did it back in the 60s, and the latest wave may have been launched by LA's Red Hot Chili Peppers. Or maybe the roof-raising Fishbone. Only recently emerged is the sound of another veteran funk rock whatever West Coast band, Primus. A far more exotic fusion was concocted by a Belgian producer recording under the name Enigma, who revved up a dance beat under the 9th century sounds of Gregorian chant.
Basically, I try to combine black grooves, Art of Noise, Vangelis, and Pink Floyd, you know, something like this.
Then there was the hardcore LA rap star Ice-T, who fused his interest in thrash rock with an actual hardcore band called Body Count.
Oh, with the body count!
The year's most unabashed fusion of rap and metal, however, was executed by Public Enemy and Anthrax with their remake of the PE anthem, Bring the Noise.
I'm just trying to break that barrier, you know, just saying, look, they don't have to be separated all the time. They can come together.
The great message of such hybrid music, as always, is that bringing musical styles together can bring people together, too.
They say, yo, man, it's all about having a good time with the music. And I think essentially that's what it's all about.
Once again occupying a genre all her own this year was Madonna, in whose very neighborhood here on New York City's Central Park West we now find ourselves. She was still laughing through the Justify My Love controversy as the year began. Then in the spring she turned up at the Academy Awards show in Los Angeles to favor the nation with a performance that took place only partly on stage. Madonna's performance at the Oscars may have been upstaged by her choice of escorts.
I didn't have a date for the Academy Awards, and Michael was like, well, who are you going to go with? And I looked at him, I said, I don't know, you want to go?
Strike a pose, there's nothing to it.
Then in May, suddenly Madonna was everywhere, promoting her concert documentary, Truth or Dare. She even turned up in a fantasy bit on Saturday Night Live's most lovable segment, Wayne's World.
Wayne, do you want to play Truth or Dare?
Excellent.
Truth Truth or Dare was first unveiled in France at the Cannes Film Festival. Its bi-coastal premieres in this country were both AIDS benefits, and the movie itself created an immediate buzz with its startling candor about the star and her antic persona.
Yes, I am a tramp. I got the moves, baby. You got the motion. If we got together, we'd be causing a commotion.
If the truth does hurt. I mean, honesty is a frightening concept to most people, but on the other hand, if people got used to it, maybe it wouldn't be so frightening.
Truth or Dare, Madonna?
Been the love of your life,
My whole life? Sean. I get a lot done because I work my ass off. I have high expectations of myself and other people.
You don't find an answer, Keith. You can't, I mean, I'm singing a cappella and the f***ing headset goes out.
We're all on separate frequencies, so there's something...
Well, only on their frequency, and you know, I mean, you know.
It was a real learning experience about myself, to watch myself, seeing the sort of the little nuances in the way I deal with people.
Do we want to have an R rating or an X rating? X! X for extra fun!
Once the Truth or Dare hubbub died down, Madonna went right into training for her role in the baseball movie A League of Their Own. The movie shoot required Madonna herself to keep a low public profile, but her name remained in the news anyway. Her brother Martin tried to launch a rap career, calling himself MC Ciccone.
The master lyricist supreme. Ask me where I got it, I'll say it's in my jeans.
A series of Madonna postage stamps was commissioned. Tabloid newspapers trumpeted an alleged affair with baseball star Jose Canseco, and in bookstores, 3 biographical rehashes surfaced just in time for holiday shopping. Finally, Forbes magazine estimated that Madonna was the 4th highest paid performer in show business.
I worked very hard for what I have, but I was lucky to have the nerve and the courage to do what I do.
I'm gonna press this thing, and I'm gonna press power. When I press it, the camera's gonna go off.
Apart from Madonna's surprise hit Truth or Dare documentary, one of the biggest movie stories of the year was the emergence of more black filmmakers than had ever before been seen in Hollywood's largely white history. The black filmmaker renaissance began with Spike Lee. An interest in his work has remained so high that fans are already flocking to Spike's Joint, his retail store here in Brooklyn, to buy promotional hats for his upcoming movie bio on Malcolm X, a film that hasn't even finished shooting yet. Here's a closer look at the black filmmaking class of 1991.
This is what I term as like the Afrocentric new wave in film.
Everyone wants to put out a black film now. You know, made by black people, starring black people, a depiction of black life.
In 1991, black filmmakers were big box office, and they were everywhere, examining black culture from Harlem in the 1920s to the streets of South Central Los Angeles today.
Now we're getting a chance to you know, have bigger budgets, you know, and we're coming up with stories that are not necessarily just about bourgeoisie folks, or not just about people in the streets. You know, it's like life.
So we're still gonna get married, right? Yeah, but I want to go to college before I get married, and there ain't no guarantee that I'm gonna marry you.
People know that the drugs are destroying the community, that it affects people of all colors, and that it's a situation that really needs to be dealt with.
Let's have a hot party.
People want to find out what's going on with the drug culture a la New Jack City. They want to find out what's happening with the hip-hop culture in middle-class America, as in the house party sagas. Pick a color. Any color.
It's cool to laugh, but when I go back into the black community, it ain't a house party. It's reality. I see anger, and I see oppression, and I see people saying, how can I get myself out of this situation?
There's no wrong way out of here. You look over there. Look over there. You see that? You know how they did that? You think they did that the right way?
Director Matty Rich's Straight Outta Brooklyn was a movie in the unblinking manner of Spike Lee, by now an elder statesman of black film, who this year confronted the issue of interracial sex in his movie Jungle Fever.
There are going to be certain people in Mississippi and Alabama and other parts
who will feel very uneasy to see a black man having sex with, you know, with a white woman.
Maybe the most unusual black movie this year was the award-winning low-budget Chameleon Street, a quirky and personal first-time effort by Michigan-based director Wendell Harris Jr. There were no drug busts, shootouts, or rap tunes in Chameleon Street, but for most black film people, that grittier side of black life remained the most important aspect to portray on screen.
If you're just gonna make something that's not really saying anything, then, you know, it's really no progress. But if you're making movies that's kind of like reflecting on the community and trying to open some eyes, then that's progress.
Black filmmakers come into their own. We'll be back with Guns N' Roses, the year in lawsuits, celebrity arrests, and the state of the whole wide world.
Not with a bang.
Welcome back to the Year in Rock. It was a year of what seemed like endless legal problems for many pop figures, among them Pee Wee Herman, who was arrested inside this porno theater in his hometown of Sarasota, Florida last summer and charged with alleged indecent exposure. Other police hassles abounded and litigation blossomed in courtrooms across the land. The American penchant for litigation and police intervention made big news again this year, and nowhere more so than in show business. Comic actor Paul Reubens, on sabbatical from his Pee Wee Herman TV show, became the celebrity bustee of the year when police officers, taking in a triple bill at a porn theater in his hometown of Sarasota, Florida, arrested him for indecent exposure, precipitating an avalanche of bad jokes.
Oh, so funny I forgot to laugh.
Soul giant James Brown filed a $5 million suit against shoe designer Kenneth Cole for promoting a new keyhole shoe with the ab line, "Two great things with soul under lock and key."
Here's a man that's making you look like a criminal just to sell his shoe.
Also seeking $5 million, in this case from the makers of St. Ides malt liquor, is public enemy leader Chuck D, who has condemned malt liquor companies for targeting black consumers and was thus incensed when a St. Ides commercial featured an unauthorized sample of his voice.
Yeah, yo, come on.
Here we go again.
I looked at that as being a slap in the face. Just suing the out of the beer company.
How low can you go? Death row? What a brother.
Back in the world of busts, even new kid on the block Donnie Wahlberg managed to get himself arrested this year on suspicion of arson after allegedly setting fire to a puddle of vodka in a Louisville hotel room corridor.
Is this thing being blown out of proportion?
Yes, sir. Very much so.
It wasn't a good year for Run DMC either. DMC himself, Darryl McDaniels, was convicted of disorderly conduct in an Atlanta nightclub, and his partner Joseph Simmons, better known as Run, found himself pleading not guilty to rape charges filed by a fan in Cleveland.
What's the meaning of this? I must be dreaming. Blow, Daddy!
Actually put behind bars was 80s funk star Rick James after a young woman claimed that he and his girlfriend, Tanya Hijazi, held her captive in their Los Angeles home for several days, burned her with a crack pipe, and forced her to have sex with Hijazi.
How will affect my career in a long term? I have no idea, but they was always consider me a bad boy. So.
Then there was Dr. Dre of the tough-talking rap act NWA, who assaulted petite TV rap show host Dee Barnes in an LA nightclub, much impressing his NWA partners.
The host of that show did something, and she know what she did and got beat down, and I hope it happened again.
I'm expressing with my full capabilities, and now I'm living in correctional facilities. Hey, baby!
In dance pop land, Paula Abdul was accused by a studio backup singer, Yvette Marine, with not crediting Marine's co-lead vocals on Abdul's 3-year-old debut album, Forever Your Girl. Why did Marine wait so long to air her allegations?
I wasn't asked until about a month and a half ago.
I find it particularly offensive that someone would attempt to take a shortcut to success at the expense of all the hard work that I've done.
Come on, put me in the bay.
Former Prince protege Ingrid Chavez announced that she had co-written the Madonna hit Justify My Love with producer Lenny Kravitz, but received no credit because Kravitz wanted to keep his love affair with Chavez a secret from his wife, sitcom star Lisa Bonet.
Barefoot and pregnant, that's how they keep you.
Tell me your dreams. Am I
Singer Billy Idol surrendered himself to police after being charged by a Los Angeles woman with punching her in the backseat of a car. And then there was singer Chris Robinson of the Black Crowes, who got into an argument with a woman buying Twinkies in a 7-Eleven store in Denver.
They let cocaine dealers and baby molesters go walking off, but I guess, you know, two people get in an argument at a convenience store, it's a big deal, you know? It goes to show you where the priorities are in this country, you know?
Calls a mama, I'm sure all the henna now just around.
Despite the apparently growing legal dangers of fame and fortune, there was no shortage of young acts in search of stardom this year. You could catch them on the club circuit, places like the Ritz here in New York City. And while many of them clearly had no future, some of them definitely delivered the goods. And here they are.
That's whose brother? What? Nah, can't be.
Come on. Feel it. Feel the vibration.
One of the newest kids on the block, Marky Mark, brought a hip-hop sensibility to his big pop hit, Good Vibrations, bringing the rap feel to a broader audience as he saw it.
What I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to educate people, you know, and if a lot of kids are going to buy my records, then I'm going to try to help them understand hip-hop and what it's really about. And then they might be more open to listen to other rappers.
PM Dawn, always been just being very blissed out and mellow. Just being just cool and sane.
PM Dawn combined a psychedelic sensibility and a vivid array of samples to define a new age rap style that spawned two very hot singles.
Our style of music is what we call hip-hop doo-wop.
Color Me Bad, on the other hand, brought a hip-hop beat to classic street corner a cappella vocals and made a major impact on the charts.
Because, you know, everybody knows about cheating, and everybody had it done to them or done it, so they with it whether they want to admit it or not. So it was a private joke. Yeah, I'm down with OPP. Get out with OPP, yeah, you know me. Who's down with OPP? Every line's on me.
Are you recording?
The soulful sound of British singer Seal made him a star in his homeland and made some sizable waves in this country with one of the year's more distinctive singles.
But we're never gonna survive unless we get a little crazy.
Are we even crazy? Really? I haven't had a psychiatric evaluation lately, so I can't confirm that. We're playing Crisco Twister.
But the most earth-shaking new act of the year was the Seattle band Nirvana, which rocked the charts with the explosive, punked-out sound and attitude of Nevermind, the band's first major label album.
We're just this rock and roll band. We play our songs, you know, and play them to the people, and people like them. That's cool.
Hot new acts of 1991. We'll be back with Guns N' Roses and the state of the world in just a moment. But first, here's a look back at some people we're going to miss.
And
Welcome back to the Year in Rock. A number of non-musical events in 1991 were so emblematic of larger social issues that they touched us all in one way or another. Basketball star Magic Johnson announcing he contracted HIV, the ongoing abortion debate, the rise of so-called political correctness on college campuses, and the crumbling of communism in Eastern Europe, among other things. Right now, here's a look at the state of the world.
The New World Order. I was too strident and too intolerant as a younger man. I'd rather die than be drunk. Have to retire from the labor.
In the Soviet Union, an attempted coup by communist diehards nearly toppled President Mikhail Gorbachev, but thanks largely to Russian Republic leader Boris Yeltsin, it failed, effectively ending more than 70 years of state commitment to communist ideology.
the future's in the air, can feel it everywhere.
With the decline of the Soviets as a global threat, President George Bush announced, for the first time since the dawn of the atomic age, a U.S. intention to scale back its own nuclear arsenal.
I'm therefore directing that the United States eliminate its entire worldwide inventory of ground-launched, short-range, that is, theater, nuclear weapons.
Ironically, with freedom suddenly so in vogue elsewhere in the world, here in the States, labor unions and their friends in Congress mounted an attempt to keep foreign musicians and other artists out of the country with inexplicably restrictive new visa laws.
I don't care where you come from. It's all a sham.
One native musician, Don Henley, led a campaign to buy away the unprotected portions of environmentalist Henry David Thoreau's Walden Woods from real estate developers. Liberal sentiments were seen to be running amok at many colleges and universities in the guise of political correctness, a movement that sought to restrict free speech and academic inquiry in the name of a fashionable political orthodoxy. In PC lingo, blacks were to be called African Americans, plainly disabled people were only differently abled, and short people, in one extremely silly locution, were said to be vertically challenged. There were also serious questions raised about exactly what facts were being taught in the name of multiculturalism.
My victory.
The most politically incorrect person of the year was one-time American Nazi and Klansman David Duke, who may have lost a runoff election to become governor of Louisiana, but who may not fade from the scene as quickly as some might hope.
In this campaign, for the heart, and the soul, and the spirit of this country, that campaign is not over. It's only just beginning.
Blatant racism was hardly confined to Louisiana in 1991, however. In Los Angeles, a bystander videotaped uniformed police savagely beating Rodney King, a black motorist who had been stopped for speeding. Race also seemed to be the key issue when confirmation hearings got underway for Supreme Court nominee Clarence Thomas, but the overriding issue quickly became sexual harassment.
He said that if I ever told anyone of his behavior, that it would ruin his career.
I would have preferred an assassin's bullet to this kind of living hell.
Thomas was eventually confirmed, raising new fears that he might provide a swing vote in any judicial attempt to overturn the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision that legalized abortion in the United States. The undying passions surrounding the abortion issue were most vividly demonstrated this year in bitter partisan clashes at an abortion clinic in Wichita, Kansas.
We will not rest until Wichita is abortion-free.
Weighing in from the pop music community was a group of women performers with a pro-choice public service announcement.
It's time now to really take a stand and mobilize and, join grassroots organizations and let your voice be heard.
As the year came to a close, conservatives and liberals alike appeared to be equally touched by the widely admired basketball star Magic Johnson's announcement that he had contracted HIV, the virus associated with AIDS.
I will now become a spokesman for the HIV virus. I think sometimes we think, well, only gay people can get it, well, it's not going to happen to me. And here I am saying that it can happen to anybody, even me, Magic Johnson, it can happen to.
And then there was the world of Guns N' Roses. Once again this year, the most entertaining rock band in the land. The boys finally released those 2 new albums they've been talking about for the past several years. And in July, they were at the center of a good old-fashioned rock and roll riot here at the Riverport Amphitheater in St. Louis. Right now, for those who may have missed the band's various antics and accomplishments, here's a recap. The band began the year at January's Rock in Rio festival with 2 new members in tow, keyboardist and occasional conga man Dizzy Reed and former Cult drummer Matt Sorum.
And it ended up being the best thing that's ever happened to the band. It made us a lot stronger as a group. We got to be friends again in a different way because the tensions to make a new album have been so hard on us in LA. We're getting it done, but we really ended up needing this. It was kind of therapeutic.
Then came promises of a tour, for which the Guns warmed up with a blitz of one-night mini-dates that ripped through San Francisco, Los Angeles, and New York City. The band's New York date also doubled as a video shoot for the Terminator 2 track You Could Be Mine, which eventually arrived on MTV, tagged with an appearance by the Terminator himself.
We filmed the show in the Ritz, and then, I guess Arnold was flying back from Cannes or something. I want to be in the video.
Finally, on Memorial Day weekend, Guns N' Roses launched their first ever headlining tour.
I get up around 7, get out of bed around 9. Ever since we started, we've been aiming at, we wanted our second major album. We wanted a headlining tour, and to do it right. And it feels great.
In a lousy season for concert tours, the Guns N' Roses show, with Skid Row opening up, prospered. And of course, there was never a dull moment. Every show, it seemed, featured an Axl Rose rant or two. And in St. Louis, after he jumped into the crowd to protect a fan or grab a camera or something, an actual riot ensued, resulting in 15 arrests, 80 injuries, a purported $200,000 worth of property damage, and the band's most heartfelt thanks in the notes to its next album. In the great tradition of Jerry Lee Lewis, the Rolling Stones, and Led Zeppelin, trouble was Guns N' Roses' constant companion. They were fined by local officials in New York and Indiana and sued by their former drummer, Steven Adler, who charged that they'd encouraged his incapacitating heroin addiction. But the band roared on, bringing its world-beating sound to Europe in August, and at every stop along the way, insisting that its long-delayed brace of Use Your Illusion albums would be coming out real soon.
I just want to get it as soon as possible.
It's thought-provoking, violent, and negative.
Finally, on September 17th, 1.5 million fans across the country lined up at record stores to actually buy Use Your Illusion 1 and/or 2. So what really took so long?
Success, you know, made it take a long time. That sudden realization of like being huge, and then there was the associated drug problems that you know ensued.
With a new, strictly sales-driven ranking system recently instituted, Guns N' Roses became the first band to debut at number 1 and 2 on the Billboard chart. Ironically, the first single released after the 2 albums finally appeared was a song that dated all the way back to the band's scuffling club days, although the video that accompanied it was very much a product of the group's rock star present.
Very self-indulgent, extremely self-indulgent.
Hey,
So self-indulgent, I'm going to film 3 versions of myself tonight.
Then, on Thanksgiving, Axl Rose announced to the world that Guns guitarist, songwriter, and singer Izzy Stradlin had resigned from the band and was being replaced by one Gilby Clarke from an LA group called Kill for Thrills. Exactly what this crucial personnel change might mean for rock's most charismatic band remains to be seen. Guns N' Roses back out on the road again right now, and no doubt gearing up to make another year's worth of who knows what kind of news.
That about concludes this look back at the year in rock 1991. We wound up back at MTV's home base, Times Square in New York City. Guess it's time to go back to work.
For another year. We'll see you soon.
You can catch an encore presentation of the Year in Rock later today at 6, 5 Central. Animania, the best in MTV animation, is just 30 minutes away. But right now, stay tuned for the House of Style Paris edition coming up next on MTV.